let's get started with your top pitches of the week. Your first up this week was, I will let you take it away. It is Greg Weissert. Tell me all about this pitch.
Yeah, this thing like broke Twitter when I tweeted it. It is a wicked 21-inch breaking slider. I mean, you see Diaz going out of the way of it. That kind of makes the pitch. The reaction is fantastic, but that is a nasty pitch on its own. I mean, you think you're going to wear it and it ends up in the middle. It's almost middle, actually, where he catches it.
Can you explain real quick? Because I know you and I talk a lot about movement, how much a pitch is moving, 21 inches of break. Can you explain maybe the average and where 21 inches ranks amongst a normal slider?
Well, a lot of it depends on how fast the pitch is moving too. So this was a relatively, I think it's an 80-mile-an-hour slider. It's decent. It's moving decent. A slower moving slider can move a little bit more. It has more time to break. This is definitely an above average slider. The way it's measured, I think a lot of people get confused at how it's measured too. Because I hear like, oh, that didn't really move that far. It's all done via optical systems, and Hawkeye measures it. And it's based on the trajectory of the way the pitch was going and how much it broke off of that trajectory. Not necessarily like, you may not see a ton of movement, but that pitch out of hand is headed kind of right, basically at Diaz there, and ends up in the middle of the zone.
So this next pitch might be a good example of that. And I'm a big fan of this guy. You are as well. Number 2 on your nastiest pitches of the week, in no particular order, Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, like I just think this is incredible, and he deserves all the credit in the world for coming up, introducing a 100-mile-an-hour sinker in the middle of the season. Like, that's how talented this dude is. He just like, wouldn't it be cool if I threw a sinker that was 100 miles an hour and really nasty? Let me try this. And it does. Like, look at this pitch. That's a nasty sinker.
So my question for you here is, and I had John Smoltz on the show on Wednesday. Now, John Smoltz, one of the greatest pitchers of all time. You were just a tick behind him when it comes to greatest pitchers of all time. But you know plenty about pitching. You know pitching history. You know a lot of pitchers. You know what they've done. Have you seen in recent memory anything like this? Have you seen a pitcher create something in the middle of the year, late in the season, and start throwing it with this amount of effectiveness as what Shohei Ohtani has done?
Not off the top of my head, at least totally out of the blue throwing it. And it just goes more to seeing, kind of what an alien he is. I know folks have worked on pitches in spring training, maybe put it in there, but he was flat out asked whether he threw a sinker in that Time magazine interview. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, I don't have one. And then he's like, he sees the Clay Holmes pitch, and Clay Holmes throws a 100-mile-an-hour sinker at him. He has that face like, interesting. Let me file that away. Let me throw it the next time I pitch. That's freaking incredible.
So this video that you made was awesome. And I think a lot of people, and probably everybody else in the world, when they think that, when they see that pitch, Shohei Ohtani makes that face, and probably everybody in the world is thinking, oh my God, that was 100 miles an hour. That was disgusting. And that's what that face is for. Shohei Ohtani's face is, I should throw that.
Yeah. It's the beauty of being a pitcher and a hitter. Like, I think there's a big value in it, because, I mean, that as being on both sides of the ball, how hard it is to hit. And you're saying like, hey, maybe I can borrow that. I kind of like the way that pitch moves.
Unbelievable. A true unicorn you have at number 2. Next up, number 3, we have Jacob DeGrom.
Talk about a unicorn. I mean, I get amazed, and, I fanboy over DeGrom because he deserves it. He's the best pitcher, arguably, that I've ever seen. I mean, you may put peak Pedro in that level, but these are 3 consecutive 98, 99 mile an hour and then 100 mile an hour glove side fastballs. He's a robot. Like, the dude throws glove side fastballs like he owns them.
He went 98, 99, 100. That's what it was.
He did. Like, he's just like making stuff up. It's like a little game of darts with him. except with 100-mile-an-hour pitches. Like, I think most people understand what they're seeing is ridiculous out of him looking at the stats, but visually this shows you what a marksman he is. Like, it's mind-blowing.
So you've been, up close and personal. You see this, you watch him pitch all the time, you post his videos. So you can attest to similar sort of sentiment what Mookie Betts said of Jacob DeGrom the other day. This guy could be the greatest to ever do it.
Yeah, like, I mean, look at his stats. His whip is 0.55, is it? Like that's not a real number. You can't do that. I mean, shoot, that's it. It's nuts. And I just wish he was healthy for an entire season so we can see it over and over again. But you should never take for granted how good this guy is. He's pitching against the best in the world and making them look like they're little leaguers.
I agree. And that's what, last year, I think we just kind of write off the year last year for him because he got hurt. But he pitched a good chunk of that year and he was on pace. And obviously he didn't make it halfway through the year, but he was on pace to have the greatest season of all time and break records that Bob Gibson has, which was the year that the mound was lowered because of him. Jacob DeGrom was doing Bob Gibson things last year. And I think it's easy to forget, this isn't just he's back and, oh, look, he's Jacob DeGrom. No, what we're watching is when this guy is healthy, the most dominant pitcher, one of the most dominant easily that we have ever seen. And it's a mixture of velocity, 100 miles an hour, 96-mile-an-hour sliders, and command with that, like we showed and you showed in your video that you put on Twitter of, 98, 99, 100. But look where it is. This guy is like painting the Mona Lisa with his fastball.
You make a 100% great point. And I think we shouldn't ever forget this. Like, there may be other Cy Young Award winners. They can, whoever wins a Cy Young, awesome, great year. But let's not forget who the most dominant pitcher in baseball is. And if you polled all the pitchers, they'd agree. Like, there's nobody that would argue that DeGrom is not the most dominant pitcher in the world. And this is the stuff that's, there are plenty of guys that throw 100. There's nobody with that type of command and 95, 96-mile-an-hour sliders and now working in changeups and curveballs. Forget it.
Forget it. Next up on your list, number 4, you have Felix Bautista.
Yeah, I am a huge fan of his. Nicknamed the Mountain. I did not come up with that nickname, but he is just a mountain, and he has over and over again the most wicked splitter you'll ever see. And this is just one of them. I think he's got like a 55% whiff rate on his splitter. It's not hittable. He throws 100, 101, 102, and then has that thing drop off the face of the earth. Like, forget it.
The Orioles, you don't want to say that they didn't miss a beat, but they get rid of an all-star closer. And this story of Felix Bautista, he was in A-ball last year. A-ball. And now he's at the big leagues being featured by Pitching Ninja, the pinnacle. He has made it. He has made it and is featured by you. And that splitter is just disgusting. Good choice there. Next up on your list, the guy that is in the midst of perhaps he's 2 outs away from breaking the all-time Diamondbacks scoreless innings streak and 8th longest streak all time, Zach Gallen. What pitch of his do you have on this week?
This is a changeup, and it's mostly for this reaction. I mean, like, you get a guy to fall down on your changeup and count it out by ninja referee Steve Willis. This is sick. I love the fact that Gallen is probably the most underrated ace out there. I mean, what's his ERA? Like 2.4, and he's quietly doing this with a quiet consecutive scoreless streak. Fellow North Carolina grad, he gets credit for that, but nasty pitch and nasty reaction too.
I'm with you. I feel, I don't know if it's just me, but now apparently it's not. I feel like this stretch that he is on, the 8th longest scoreless inning stretch of all time, is going a little under the radar, no?
I totally agree. Like, I mean, just think of throwing shutout after shutout after shutout. Like, everybody should be watching this stuff.
Yeah.
But no. I hope they do now. Like, Gallen deserves his props. He's been good for years, and he just he just constantly flies under the radar. I don't know that he really cares about it. I think he's just a workman type guy that does his job really well. But if he was pitching in a bigger market, maybe you think everybody'd be on him.
Yeah, I agree. He goes a little under the radar out there. The Diamondbacks probably have something to do with that. Not a huge market, not a great team of late. Although this year, once they had that losing streak,
pitching's been good.
They've been sneaky good. But I am often asked the toughest pitchers that I faced in my professional career. And amongst the likes of, Alex Reyes, Jack Flaherty, there's so many big league all-stars that I've faced. But I, without a doubt, always say Zach Gallen is one of the nastiest guys that I ever faced. And I faced him in Batavia. The Batavia Muck Dogs is where I ran into Zach Gallen. And just the sinker, slider, changeup combo is just disgusting. So, and that changeup was nasty this week.
Thanks for watching. If you love flipping bats, swinging 3-0, or just talking ball, join us. Call us at 213-537-9339 with your questions. We have a weekly guest, and we have a lot of fun, so hit that subscribe button.